Smooth sailing on the boat. It was the 5th day of your 3-week journey. Nothing much happened on this day. You did try and talk to the captain to find out his motives for becoming a captain, but he didn't really share much. And so you were left either helping the crew or minding your own business, enjoying the nice, relaxing sailing. On the 6th day, however, you weren't woken up to an immediate panic, but there was an uneasy energy in the air as you heard murmuring and hustling about the ship. By the time you got up, you saw another ship on the horizon without any flags to indicate which nation they were a part of. And so the crew hurriedly or scurryingly about, trying to prepare themselves for the predicted worst. You were fired upon by a pirate vessel. It was quite a hefty battle. Cannons were fired from both sides. Pirates swung onto your ship. There were a few casualties on your side. I believe 2 sailors died. Yeah. And a fair decent amount of damage was done to your ship. After your inevitable victory against the pirate ship, you did the best that you can to repair your own before continuing to sail through the 6th day. And that is where we are now, on the morning of the 7th day. There is a calm, gentle breeze that manages to find its way into your cabin through the small openings on the side of the hull. There isn't much ruckus going about up top. Sailors are also fairly melancholy after the battle that you had yesterday. With your morning breakfast and your preparations for the day, you hear a knock on your cabin door. As right afterwards, a sailor calls out to you, "The captain wants to see you." And without much more information, the sailor leaves as quickly as possible to what you presume to get back to their job. What would you guys like to do?
Well, I suppose we shouldn't leave Mr. Psycho Captain waiting.
Indeed, that wouldn't really be too wise.
The captain has have a good lesson learned in way impatient, important all to.
Well, none can be as patient as the god Kola himself.
But I guess he will, of course, be missing the great Cola's present, and therefore we should not delay, else we may find him having slit his own throat, just in agony over not being in the great Cola's present.
Then let us make our way.
Alright, you guys hastily make your way to the top deck, where you find the captain not on the top by the steering wheel, but actually in his quarters. The first mate kind of gestures you guys in, and once your entire group is inside, she hastily closes the door. You notice the captain has a very serious energy around him. He isn't his joyful self, as he kind of looks at all of you one by one, We have a slight issue. Now, I called you all here today because I need your help resolving this said issue.
Yes, what seems to be the issue?
Well, you are aware that we took quite a hefty bit of damage in yesterday's little scuffle, and be it that you may have repaired the hull, you did not replenish our supply. So, the issue comes in a lack of supply. We can try and make it all the way, all the rest of the journey with our limited numbers, or we can find an island nearby and see what we can scavenge around there. Now, I know you are very pressed for time, which is why I haven't made the decision yet.
Well, it would be fairly unwise to assume that we won't be getting any more scuffles along the way, so perhaps it would be in our best interest, even if it lengthens our cruise, to probably make landfall and supply ourselves. Who knows? Maybe we can even find something that might aid us in our quest.
I'm kind of relieved to hear you agree on us. I don't typically know how adventurers think. It is nice to hear your agreement. Now
Oh
that
yes,
we
it is definitely not because I'm just kind of sick of being on a boat constantly.
right, sure it's not. Moving on. Now that we have clarified that issue, there comes another one. The closest guaranteed island where we can get supplies is none other than Alfron. But something tells me that's not really an option.
What might that be? What would tip you off to consider that?
Well, for one, your constant air of paranoia. Granted, it's subtle, but it's there.
And two, potentially three or four.
That's skis.
You did say like one thing is our paranoia. So are there other reasons?
Oh, yes. The other, from what I can assume, your supposed sister here looks pretty advanced to be an ordinary warforged, which leads me to suspect that she is some part of a military influence, and thus you are trying to protect her in a way. I don't. This is purely speculation. Now, I'm just trying to piece together what I rarely have.
Of course, of course. Thank you for your forthrightness, Captain. And I do agree with your opinion of supplying from our farm as being a fairly bad idea from personal experience, of course.
Exactly.
What might be our alternative option?
Our alternative options are the plethora of islands that will be sailing past in a few days' time. And actually, I think it's tomorrow, right? You see the first mate just kind of give a nod. Like, yeah, we'll be sailing past an island tomorrow, and so that would be our first stop. But the issues with islands is they aren't guaranteed to have the supplies we need.
That is fair enough. And assuming our most dire need of supplies would be wood for the ship, I'm assuming that it would be fairly obvious to notice whether or not an island nearby has it in supply.
Actually, wood isn't the problem, it's food.
Oh, right.
Yeah,
That thing, yeah. Slips my mind from time to time. Not really a fan of it.
yeah, I can tell. It just kind of gives you a look up and down. Hmm. So that's the problem. Not all islands are guaranteed to have food on them, let alone a welcoming civilization. I mean, we have come across one or two islands with native species or a population of native people who don't typically like outsiders. So, in my eyes, we have guaranteed food with high risk, or no guaranteed food with relatively high risk.
And
But
what about the ocean? Could
the
we not
ocean,
try to supplement the lost food stores by uh, fishing or nets or something? I don't know. It's a big ocean. Surely there's some fish around.
well, that's the thing. We can do that, but we're in constant motion, and not all areas are going to be the same with fish. And the ship, it's very difficult to stop. Bear in mind, you. When we stop at a port. We don't stop in the middle. So we can do that and potentially not stop anywhere and continue our journey, saving us time. But then again, we aren't guaranteed to catch anything.
I wasn't suggesting that we just try to fish all the way there and not stop anywhere. Just that in the in between, point A to point B, drag some nets behind us and see what we can manage to pull up. No need to stop the boat.
That is a possibility, and it has been thought over, but in the resulting battles, we lost 3 of our 5 nets. So our fishing capacity isn't at its max either. Can still do it, can still ration out the food. It is doable, but like your brother said, who says we're not going to be getting into any more skirmishes?
Enough?
So I need your party to make the decision. Do we continue on and try and fish some food out of this ocean? Do we stop by an island to hopefully replenish our stocks, or do we stop at Alphron and see what kind of trouble that gets?
I'd honestly prefer getting getting my feet on some land, as wooden as they might be. Uh, Preferably not Alfron land. So I'd go with the second option of us trying to find whatever food we can scrounge up on the island tomorrow.
Very well. And the rest of you, do you agree with? Sorry, what is your name again?
Oh, you can just call me Annie.
Yes, Yanni. Do you agree with Yanni here?
course I do.
I think for interest's sake, we'll just say that the other two also agree with you. Alright. Very well. Thank you for helping me with this matter. Free to welcome. Well, you are free to enjoy the rest of the day. Weather looks pretty promising, so we aren't expecting too much storms brewing up. Who knows, maybe good fresh air can help you with your current sea leg, or lack of.
Well, I was quite annoyed at the storm the other day because I recently took to navigation. Your navigator has been quite accommodating.
Oh yes, Hero. And what have you learned so far from her?
Oh, only the basics, I'm afraid.
So, if she were to pass away, we could rely on you to get us to Ninar or Neloris.
Perhaps. In the case that maps would still be available. But if she would perish along with any sort of possible maps, would be at the whoever gods might be, benevolent enough for us to grant us another chance. If not, we would be forsaken and die of starvation in the middle of the ocean.
Then let's hope it never comes to that.
Oh, of course not. I wouldn't hope to see you all rot away of starvation.
Oh, right. You would just rot away from rust or rot, wouldn't you?
The ship has plenty of wood.
Oh shit, you're the only one that's actually going to survive.
Mhm.
You and your sister.
Right on point.
Well then, you better get learning how to navigate better.
If only for your sake. Of course, of course.
Now, I assume we are done here. And if you have anything you want to ask me, or you can always talk to me, ask right now, or ask my first mate. She'll be up at the top.
Well, if the threat of supplies wasn't so prevalent, I would have asked for potentially a second match of drinking, but I wouldn't want this too soon. Maybe after we get ourselves, get our hands on some food and something to drink. Maybe then.
Yeah, right now our ale stock will be off limits to anyone, so we will drink again once we're at our destination.
Of course. Trust me, I can't wait to crush you again.
I can't wait to prove you wrong. Now, please leave my quarters. I have business to attend to.
Of course, of course. Life can be fairly lonely on the sea after all. Enjoy yourself, Captain.
You too. Gives you a nod with his hat. Alright. You are all ushered out by the first mate. Once you're all out, she closes the door behind her, goes up top to the steering wheel, and kind of just takes the helm. You notice the ship, all the sailors are doing what you have seen as a pattern as of late. You have noticed certain faces doing certain tasks, and you do get the feeling that each sailor has their own separate job on the ship. So it's almost a feeling of familiar. My grammar today. Oof.
Familiarity.
Thank you.
It's a bit of a tongue twister for me as well, don't worry.
Yeah. It's a nice feeling, to be honest. But all feelings do come to an end. Now, before I move on, are you guys going to do anything special for today?
Well, unless either Kola or Yuna have any need for Yanni, he would be with Hero, studying more of the arts and craft of navigation.
Alright. You two?
Just relaxing.
Fair enough. Yanni, I will ask you to make me a basic wisdom check, just to see how well you've learned from Hero.
Oh boy. A basic wisdom coming right up. 7.
Yeah, she didn't really teach you anything new. It's more just hammering in the basics, like making sure that it becomes second nature, knowing which side of the compass the sun rises and sets, which way to follow the birds when they're flying through the sky. Those kind of things. The only thing new was how to detect a storm, but even then, she got a little too carried away, and it was quite difficult for you to actually catch on to what she was trying to tell you.
She's more of a, oh, it feels like this, and then there's Yanni, is like holding his book open, just really again feelings. Come on.
Yeah, something like that.
The eternal debate of intelligence versus wisdom.
Alright. So as the day goes by, as the sun slowly comes close to the horizon, you notice something different that sort of breaks. Hold on. Ah, alright. Oh, okay, hold on. Alright, so Yuna, after sending your message to your lovely friends in Doreen, you get a response saying something like, "Oh, I never knew there was a limit to these things. I thought you could just say whatever you want," and just cuts off right there. He is struggling to grasp the concept of limits to the sending stone.
They never learn.
And they never will, I will make sure of it. But as the day comes to a close, you see the sun setting and the sailors sort of toning down in their activities, but something different happens for a change. You are unsure what at first, as all that you really did notice was a sort of shift in energy amongst the crew. Before it was just the everyday work, everyday grind on the ship, and now it's sort of mournful. And as you see the sun setting further and further past the horizon, you see a few of the sailors carrying the two friends that they lost in yesterday's battle, putting their pretty much pale bodies at this point onto pieces of wood that had been built into a sort of raft kind of makeshift. It doesn't take you long to realize that they are performing what you would expect as a sort of sailor's funeral for these men. There wasn't any words that were shared. It was all just silent. So silent that you can hear the riggings of the ship constantly click and clack and croak, and the hull of the ship groaning as the waves constantly batter against it.
Should I be an ass?
You're welcome.
Uh, Excuse me. I could make something useful out of those if you don't want to waste a couple of good bodies.
I thought you were talking about the raft. Now I see you talking about the actual sailors. Oh shit.
I mean, the rafts would be used as wood in the components of the dolls, so instead of just throwing them away off in the distance, you know.
You are met with almost an instant glare from all the sailors in the immediate area. Not a single one of them says anything to you, but all of their eyes are locked onto you. As their whole sort of, we'll call it a tradition, has just come to an abrupt stop.
Wow, why are you yelling at me like that? It's a waste to throw away some good bodies and some good wood as well. I was told by the captain that we are not to waste any resources, so
I would call her your saving grace, but not really, as the first mate kind of steps down from the wheel, walks up next to you, just gives a nod to the rest of the sailors before just casually putting her hand on your shoulder and just kind of gripping, not too tightly, but firm enough, just to kind of lead you away from the sailor's funeral.
yeah, he doesn't oppose it. He's still fairly confused about the whole thing, but doesn't fight it.
All right. How's it? How's it going?
Low.
Hello.
I'm glad you can join us for this hour of a game.
Wait a second.
Hmm?
Ambis. Very, isn't he?
Yes.
Yeah.
Clerics can create food.
They can.
Can you, Lambus? Can you create food with the spells that you have?
Spells I currently have, no. Do I have a spell in general that creates food? Maybe.
Create food and water, I
See.
think it's called.
We're asking this because the current situation is that your ship is running low on supplies due to the scuffles that you guys were in. And so the options were to continue sailing and ration out the supplies as much as possible while trying to fish, stop at a somewhat charted island, or stop at Alphron, which our dolls don't want.
Well, each long rest I can, if I switch the spell, I can create 90 pounds of food and 60 gallons of water.
Oh well, shit. The food crisis has been solved then. Well, are you going to do that, or are you going to keep that to yourself? Because you did have a meeting with the captain, because he wanted to find out what you guys wanted to do.
I'll tell him that I can create food, but it has to be used. Like, if it passes 24 hours, it gets spoiled. The food, at least, the water remains.
Well, I mean, 90 pounds of food is definitely going to be shared between 50 people. Actually, can 90 pounds of food? Yeah, but it's something, I guess. Alright, so that changes things. Do you guys still want to stop by the island, or do you want to continue going?
The character probably wouldn't. Me as a player, I know you probably have like something prepared for the island, so I'd feel bad not to. But
Don't worry, I'm up for whatever you guys. Because do bear in mind, I had like, what, 4 weeks to prepare for this session. So,
that's fair, that's fair. And I guess we would keep going. At least that's what Yanni would think.
alright, and I'm assuming the rest of you guys agree.
Well, if the food I'm creating actually helps overall, yeah.
Alright. Well then, scratch the conversation that we had with the captain. Your cleric very eagerly told him that he can create food, he just needs to have a long rest. So the captain is a little surprised and kind of mumbles to himself, "Yeah, but we should get one of those." And so your food crisis has been solved, even though supplies are not what they were with your friend Lambus. He can sustain you guys long enough to get to your destination. Now, continuing on, Lambus, it is currently dusk. The weather is fairly calm. There is still quite a decent rocking back and forth of the ship. Right now, the sailors are kind of holding their own sort of funeral for the two that died yesterday with the scuffle with the pirates. And so your buddy Yanni here suggested to just use the bodies to make dolls out of, which you can imagine isn't something the sailors like at all. The next thing you all notice is Yanni somewhat being dragged away by the first mate to the top there with the wheel, and only once she is up there and she's like, "Is there something wrong with you?"
Apart from seasickness and a bit of disappointment that we won't be getting to land anytime soon, don't think so.
Okay, let me. Did someone want to say something there?
No, keep going.
Okay, so you don't see the problem that you were doing just now. You don't see anything like that, correct?
No, I only see like a very. I don't know. It's like. Hmm. I'm a noble. You probably wouldn't get it. It's like scratches the edge of the mask. uh, you ever had like a very dear to you any sort of like person, object, whatever it is, and you don't want to let go of them, so you just opt to keep them. From the way I see it, that's what you guys are doing quite the opposite. You're just throwing it away, even if it still can be used. So it's like kind of making a waste of fairly decent, like an object, like a like fairly good, still functioning clockwork, or a very functioning table, even if it doesn't have like all four legs, it can still function as a table with three.
Okay, so clearly you don't understand what you did just now. So let me try and put it in terms that a noble will understand. Imagine yourself in a kingdom, alright? You're in your high up palace. You hear the news. Oh, the king is dead! The king is dead! So you go out to his funeral. And all of a sudden, a peasant comes up and says, no, that is wasting a perfectly good body. You should cut him up and feed him to the poor. How do you think the nobles would feel?
Um, this kind of thinks a little bit. Is they'd probably want it for themselves as instead of giving it to the poor?
What the fuck has happened to you?
What? It's nobles. The king is part of the nobility. Why would the king be served to the poor when it can be served to the nobility?
Who would want to eat a person?
Somebody that's very, very hungry? Eh? I wasn't hinting at eating the people. I just hinted at making them into dolls that can be still useful around the ship.
So you want these sailors to witness their already past friends who they have sailed with for many years to be walking around as lifeless dolls.
Yes, I've been doing it with my own family, and it's been working wonders so far.
She kind of looks at you, Yuna, just sure that has worked out. Sure.
All right, I won't be too obtuse. I can definitely tell when I'm offending somebody with the way that I see things and I treat life and magic and what is and isn't alive anymore. Sure, we can just simply agree to disagree. It was a insensitive thing to say in retrospect, but I still stand by my own beliefs. I still see this whole procession that is supposed to honor your dead as just wasting them away instead of actually doing something useful with the bodies.
See it as you may, but for the future, just keep your mouth shut.
Duly noted.
With a heavy sigh, she turns back, watches as the crew continues on with their kind of funeral. It's an interesting sort of tradition that they have. Because it's not just put the bodies onto a makeshift raft and throw them out. They actually put the bodies and carry it up to the top of the mast. It's quite a challenging ordeal for them, as they can only do one body at a time, and it would require two sailors to climb the mast at the same time, just to carry the body up top there. And only once up there, you kind of see them tying the body to the long pole that stretches out, holding the actual sail, tying the body to the pole with the raft underneath it. It is there that they set the bodies aflame. But under controlled conditions, because they obviously don't want sail to catch fire. And it's quite surprising because the way that they do it just kind of notifies you guys that they have done this quite a lot of time. And so the ones that are lighting the bodies are fairly experienced. They know when to do it, how to prevent the fire from actually spreading. And so the bodies are actually left up there to burn. By the time that they are burnt all the way through, the makeshift raft has sort of protected the sails. It's like kind of a shield. So only when the flames are done do the sailors get back to work. Most of them going back down underneath the deck to enjoy their night, sleeping or drinking a little bit of rum that they may have stashed away for themselves. Is there anything you guys would like to do before heading to your cabin? All right. So after witnessing the funeral, you all make your way back to your cabin. There are mixed emotions on a few of the sailors' faces as you and Yuna pass by. Kind of a sort of confusion with a mix of hatred. Some of them would shout slurs at you, others would just kind of spit at your feet. It's pretty evident that your reputation with the sailors has plummeted with your one remark. And so when you... Oh, sorry?
People of the flesh are so easily perturbed and their opinions swing so easily. Just the previous day, they were celebrating my name for fixing their ship and saving the crew. Now here they are, slurring away for actually expressing my opinion on something. Quite remarkable.
Well, with that, you will make it to the cabin. Nothing has really changed in it. The rocking of the ship eases you guys to sleep as you get ready for the very next day. Second day comes. You're all... Actually, not all. If you want to do anything after you wake up, do let me know. So I do actually need to think on how I want to do this now.
Still striving to get that navigator's degree.
All right.
Oh, I just did.
Hey. All right. So there's nothing you guys would really, besides you, Yanni, the rest of you would really like to do in the morning.
Is taking a day off from using the sending stone just because she needs to kind of take a break from the insanity that is the replies she keeps getting. So no, she's not really gonna do anything in the morning other than just chill out and relax and observe people as usual.
All right. This day is slightly more rough than the previous, as it's more cloudy. The clouds aren't showing any evidence of rain, but they do carry a bit of strong winds, which in turn causes the waves to be a little bit more unforgiving than what they usually are. The sails have been let down fully and are catching as much as possible. It's somewhat between 10 to 11 a.m. when you're all just enjoying your day off. Yani, you trying to still learn from the navigator. When you all just hear a loud and sudden crack coming from the hull of your ship, as everything is just jerked forward, the ship immediately comes to a dead stop. Water is currently gushing in the bottom deck. What would you guys like to do?
Investigating to see the cause of the commotion.
Alright. You and a few other sailors rush to the sides of the ship. I would like you to make me a investigation check. Hmm. Alright. Yanni, what you see is just water. Can't really see anything. I mean, you do see the hole in the ship, but can't really see what caused it. And even then, the hole is a little bit more difficult to notice. It's only noticeable when the waves kind of allow you to see it. You get the feeling that the hole is below this surface water.
Oh boy, we're gonna sink.
You know, when you take a squeak, from what you can see, there is a dark shadow underneath your ship. It's not moving at all. It's not showing any signs of life. But it's there. And you get the feeling that that is what caused the hole in the ship. Now, a few sailors kind of scream out to others, saying that they've hit some rocks. And that they need to come up with a solution as quickly as possible. Now, when a ship is sort of shipwrecked on a bunch of rocks, it is fairly difficult to actually recover from that. But I'll say, with your investigation, you do notice that you're kind of on the edge of the rocks. So it is still possible for you guys to get out. Now, let me actually see. I actually don't have a map for this. Oh no. Let me see if I can't quickly find one. You know what? We'll go with Theater of the Mind for now. So everyone on the ship is currently in a bit of a panic, not what like they usually were with the pirates and the other challenges you faced. You see quite a few of them kind of getting out long poles, very thick wooden poles. As two of them, as two sailors would go for one pole, trying to like, push the ship away from the rocks. As they do, they kind of grunt and groan. As I don't know if you've ever tried pushing a galleon, but it's fairly difficult for them to actually do so. If you guys think you can try and help out, please do give me a suggestion.
Cola will just flex to grow large and just help pushing, like trying to what's called get his feathers underneath the ship and just lift it so and hope that the what's called the sailors is pushing it, like push it off the.
Yeah, so what their current plan is that there would be two sailors to one massive pole, and there would be quite a few parties of these oaks, and they would just kind of all of them trying to push the ship off the rocks. So if I am to understand your thing, you want to increase your size, jump off of the ship onto the rocks, and try and lift the ship off the rocks.
Yes.
It's yeah, it is kind of doable. The ship is still mostly on the water. You can sort of nudge it up. You're gonna have to make me a strength check on this one.
I'd like to assist him in that by trying to cast Thunder Wave in the same time that he's like pulling or like pushing onto the ship. I want to like unleash this shock wave to like kind of boost it further up so that it's easier for him.
All right. So did you roll with advantage, color?
I don't know anyway. And my advantage, I think.
No.
Oh yeah, it even increases my carrying capacity. Arch.
Ah,
That's even better.
all right. Well, with the added help of the thunder wave, I will say it is possible for you to nudge the ship up. But as for pushing it away from the rocks, it is more challenging than anticipated. Yes, Yanni, your thunder wave has helped quite a bit, and the ship has moved about a foot away from the rocks, but it's not enough to get you guys in the clear.
Hmm. This might be a bit of a stretch, but could I use like ropes attached to the dolls, to Victoria and the three like retainers, like make them like jump out and like attach themselves to like rocks, and then try to use like the ropes and strings to kind of like I don't know for lack of a better term, puppeteer the thing through the field of rocks out.
So, do you want them to sort of jump on the other side, or like kind of grab onto rocks and sort of like pull the ship away?
Mm-hmm.
I am, I am intrigued with that idea. It is certainly possible, considering the story behind these dolls. Make me a strength check with Victoria, and we'll just use that for the other three as well.
Let's see. There she is. You said a strength check?
Yeah, because this is brute strength.
Mm-hmm. Alright.
It's
Probably wouldn't be enough.
at first, like on paper, it sounds like a solid idea, but when it comes down to it, there are a lot of factors that are hindering your dolls. One, the actual weight of the ship, even though it is floating on water, it is still extremely difficult to actually move it without immense amounts of force. Two, the rocks that they are trying to grip on is fairly slippery. And three, the actual strings themselves, you notice are straining a bit too much.
Hmm.
Come on. Hmm.
I guess I'll down the hill giant's strength potion.
Alright, and then you're just going to,
Yeah, do it myself.
well, help Cola, you mean?
I'm kidding. Yeah.
I'm assuming you do want to help Cola unless you want to try and do your own thing with your new giant strength.
We can do the like whole push and pull. Like he pushes the ship out of the rocks, and I'll just pull it out further along.
Alright. So, after drinking your giant's might, at first you kind of feel a little weird. There's like a little tingly feeling in your stomach. You kind of look at your hand, you don't really notice much happening, but then suddenly you just see your pinky kind of just swell up and start to grow as the rest of the hand soon follows, followed by the arm, and you kind of your arm just kind of drops the deck as it's a little heavy to actually lift up. Next follows is your left foot. It also just kind of suddenly shoots out and kind of expands. And then after that, your entire body just starts slowly growing. The heavy weight that you felt in your arm just suddenly gets lighter and lighter and lighter. Because by the time you realize the potion is done, you look at yourself and you're standing double the height of what you were. With your newfound confidence, you just start. I'm assuming you're going to go to the front of the ship, or you just start walking to the front of the ship, grabbing one of the large, heavy duty ropes that have been lying in a sort of circle. As walking, just tying it across your chest, jumping off on the front of the ship, and just you got to stretch those mechanical limbs before exerting them too much. And I will need you to make me a strength check with advantage.
Come on, baby.
Ooh, nice.
Save as cola. Yeah.
All right. So you managed to find a pretty decent spot amongst the rock where you can kind of get a solid grip and placement of your feet, so you're not sort of battling to find any strength from the ground. So you're able to kind of use your entire body to try and pull the ship as Kola just nudges it up again and again. You guys repeat this process over and over, and it's slowly starting to work. A few of the sailors notice you guys' idea and jump off to join you, all with kind of like safety ropes tied around their waist. It's, I'll say, with their help, you see the effects you're having on the ship be more pronounced, as instead of lifting or nudging the ship up, you see actually kind of like tilting the ship about a full 2 feet. So the ship is kind of sitting at an angle thanks to Kola and the sailors. And then it slowly starts moving forward, with you, Yanni, leading a bunch of sailors as they're all just trying to pull the ship forward. You guys continue this process till you find that there aren't really any rocks there in the front for you to actually grab on. And this ship is kind of safe from the rocks to the side where Kola is, but it's a little dangerous to say you're out of the danger zone. Is there one last attempt that you guys would like to make?
Hmm. Am I crazy in remembering that like old ships would have their like bottoms oiled up? Like I have a vague memory of that being a thing.
Let me do a quick research. Yeah, from my quick researching, it wasn't really oil, but it was like a tar that they used to kind of prevent or make the bottoms of the ship waterproof.
Hmm. Could I? Let me see. Is grease concentration?
It's not.
Oh, perfect. Then I would like to cast like grease a couple of times, like spending I don't fucking know, like all my fourth first level slots to like add up a nice quantity of grease on like above the water itself to kind of like help in any possible way like protect like and like coat the bottom side of the ship itself. I got nothing else.
Yeah, that sounds like a pretty decent idea. When it comes to actual shipwrecks, the majority of the time it's because of the sort of jagged rocks and the friction that they cause as they kind of stab into the hull. But with a super greased hull, how are the rocks supposed to stab in? It's a stupid but It's a stupid explanation, but I kind of like it. So you spend a bit of time and a decent amount of your spell slots to kind of grease up the side of the ship, hoping that it would protect the ship as much as possible from the rock. Everyone that is currently on the side, because there aren't really any rocks in the front for anyone to be there, kind of does a last ditch push. They're all just trying to desperately get the ship out. And granted, with the grease, it didn't help much, but the every little bit counts. And so, with the final efforts and the final push, the ship is freed from the rock. The sails immediately drop down. They catch the winds again and just shoot off. Immediately, you can see the first mate just kind of steering to one side, hoping to avoid any further rocks that could potentially be in front of you. A lot of the sailors are currently being pulled up with the safety ropes. I'm assuming Kola and Ani, you guys just got on when you saw there wasn't much else you could do.
Mm-hmm.
Flap, 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 flap.
I forgot you can fly.
And like, I can fly, I can swim. The only thing I can't is borrow or climb. I don't have really any climb.
Exactly, you can just fly.
But I take a borrow speed if I can get that.
I mean, all you need is a shovel and then you're sorted.
Yanni, transform into a shovel.
I can.
With polymorph, you can.
Yeah.
Just get polymorph and then you're sorted.
I have to wait until I'm higher level.
Alright. Once the ship is what you presume safe from any danger, a lot of the crew had already done what they can to fix the hull of the ship. They did a pretty decent job, as the hull wasn't as massive as they would be when it comes to having a cannonball shot through them, but it was still enough to bring the ship to a grinding halt. It is only then, after the ship is moving and out of harm's way, that the captain comes out, just kind of looking around, kind of sees the relieved faces on his sailors, sees you, Kola, and you, Yanni, big as hell, just kind of looks at all of you, just, what the hell happened? I'm gone for a day and all of you guys look like shit.
Can I say it's been a bumpy ride? I had a couple of rocks that the ship ran across. And I just pulled it out.
Did we hit rock? Kind of looks up to his first mate. She just sighs. Yes, Captain, we hit some rock. Huh. I never noticed. Oh well. Back on with it, all of you. He goes back inside. Strange, because the jolt of the ship was enough to send even the cannons on the ship kind of shift from their position, kind of smack into anything that was right next to him. It's a little strange to see that he didn't notice that sudden jolt. But then again, who knows what he did notice?
Did he smell profusely of booze?
Make me a perception check.
Never mind.
It is currently the 8th day of sailing. There is no real access to any baths. It's more of like a bucket shower. So everyone smells like shit. It is very difficult to get a whiff of alcohol at this point.
That's fair.
But from what you could see, he didn't look drunk. He didn't. He had the same sort of vibe when you were hit with your first storm, and he was just laughing it out. That's what you could gather from his short appearance.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Alright? With that somewhat annoying hindrance, you all continue on to your journey. Let me actually see, because we are actually moving quite quickly here. My notes. Yeah, I'll leave that for next session. Continue on the journey. The weather does take a slight turn for the worst. It's not too bad, but the clouds do cover up the sun. It gets more choppy and rocks a little bit more difficult. Hera with you, Yanni, kind of is giving you a pop quiz, trying to see if you understand or know where your bearings are and how to navigate in a storm. I am going to ask you, let me see, what would actually be best in this situation? I'm going to ask you to make me a survival check, Yanni. And if anyone else wants to, just for shits and giggles, go ahead. Oh shit.
Finally.
And look,
Finally, a good
I got the
roll.
same. You just need to read it the other way around. From right to left, instead of left to right.
Alright. So, Cola, you aren't exactly in the same lesson, but you're just kind of eavesdropping from where you are. Just kind of answering to yourself. East is that way. No, Yana, you're wrong. East is north is that way. You can't. You don't know where you're going, Yanni. You're failing your test. But Yanni, you surprisingly, out of sheer luck or actual learning, almost every single question she gives you, you answer spot on. She would ask you to give all 4 directions and you would point them out very nicely. She would ask you how would you determine which way you were heading if you didn't know your directions, and you gave a fairly decent answer. And She kind of nodded in agreement. At at first, you didn't really know if you were doing well until her last question arises. Out of a scale of 1 to 10, how do you think you're doing in this little pop quiz?
Are we doing decimals? How many are we allowed to pick?
Well, just give me a number and I'll let you know if you're right or wrong.
9.83.
She kind of gestures with her hand to tell you to increase the score.
1999.
She gestures again.
Oh, huh. All right. I'm getting good at this.
Maybe, or it could just be sheer luck. I'll never know. Just keep practicing and well done on your first test. Gives you a smile as a sort of gust of wind just kind of smacks her and she kind of has to regain her footing. But very quickly recomposes herself and continues smiling.
Had a good teacher so far. I'm looking forward to learning even more until we reach our destination.
Well, with the rate that you're learning, you'll be able to show me which way the sun takes a ship, and by the end of this trip.
That is highly reassuring. Thank you, Hero.
She gives you a polite bow and hastily walks back to her quarters. As another gust of wind slaps her again. This time, she has to take a few more steps to regain her footing, and then quickly rushes on.
Is there like something like unnaturally clumsy about her, or is it just like a natural amount of unluck, or
That-
something like that about
Mm.
her?
That was, I would say, unluck,
I see.
because it wasn't really any clumsiness. It was more she's been in her cabin for so long that she hasn't really accustomed to outside weathers on the ocean. So the sudden gusts of wind took her by surprise.
Huh. Okay.
All right. And with that, you guys spend the rest of the day just making sure you don't fall off the ship, chatting with one or two of the sailors who will chat with, or who are willing to chat with you, Yanni and Yuna. As the day comes to an end, the weather does increase or worsen a bit, but it doesn't really bother you that much as you get below deck. And enjoy a restless night of sleep. As throughout the night, the weather still gets worse and worse, and you find it a little bit more difficult to actually fall asleep.
Meep meep.
What was that?
Have you never seen what's called Pingo?
I'm terrible with names. You're gonna have to remind me. What is Pingo?
You like Roadrunner?
I don't think that's his name.
That's fine.
Oh,
Oh, that thing.
okay. I see now. Alright, and with that, I will say we'll call it there for today's session, purely because we moved quite a bit. I mean, we got through 2 days in one session. 3 days, actually. No, 2. Yeah. 2 days in one session. Damn.
All
I'm-
thanks to one cleric spell.
Indeed. It has been quite a long time. I hope I wasn't too bad with today's session. I mean, it has been quite a bit. So, either way, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next week.
Hopefully. And again, apologies for